this bead right here that I made, it was just a cane that I ran through the pasta machine and rolled it up. And the more I looked at it after I baked it, and this is Deep Shine on here, by Teresa Salgato at tinypandora.com. It is a UV brush-on resin that works wonderful on round and curved surfaces along with flat surfaces. But it's so simple to use on beads and gives you a wonderful finish. But anyhow, the more I looked at this, it looked like peacock feathers to me. The way that the cane design went in. And there's some purples and greens and golds and browns. And the purples mixed with the green and giving it a little bit of a reddish part. So that's where I went to these beads. Now these are all plastic beads except for the gold ones. And they were in a kit, and I'd only used them once on something, and I don't even remember what it was. It's been so long ago. But I thought, you know, this bead has the olive green in it. It has a darker green in it, which this one actually has. And it has the little feathery looks in it, like the peacock beads. So I thought, hey, that's a cool thing. Now I'm going to need your all's help because I have tried several different ways to string this bead, because it will be sitting on the bottom of the necklace, and I'll probably hang off some sort of I don't know, dangle thing here maybe, depending on what it looks like when I get it finished. And the way I started this, let me find it. Here it is. The way I started this was on a wire. And I put on one end cap, and it's a gold filigree. I put on 4 balls that's going to go through here. Here's Teresa's trick again. And that's what I had. Because I don't want this too fancy. I'm making it chunky. Well, that didn't, I was going to super glue the metal down on the clay. And by the time I get it strung, it'll hold. So then I had a different type of end cap for a bead that was more cup shape. And I thought, well, that'll give it a little bit of length coming out and going into a shape rather than just having that one on there. And yeah, it's possible to put both of those on there. And I wasn't sure where I was going from there, but I don't want too much on this wire here. And I'll show you why in a minute. Then I thought, oh, I'm trying to keep this gold. So let me put one of these end caps on it. This is for a necklace or a bracelet. And it's where you put either cording or stringing or a bead up in there, and then because it's, you know, it's a larger hole, and it brings it out to a point. I can stick it in there, but I'd really like to cover up the edge of this bead. But I can stick it in there and get it to hook to one of the turquoise beads that's inside. Actually, I could glue it, the bead in there, and or use a little bit larger bead even, and see if I could get it to set right like that. That wouldn't be too bad, but I'm still not convinced on that one. And then I thought, okay, the gold balls are bigger. It pretty much fills up the end of the tube, but it's just a gold ball on the end of a tube, and that's how it looks. I wasn't impressed with that one either. So this is where I need your all's help. Help me come up with a way. Give me some ideas in the comments below on how I can hang this bead to be the focal bead of this necklace. So enough about that. Let's get that out of the way. But I would appreciate some suggestions and things, and if I showed you something and you liked it, maybe we can try it. I don't know. But in order to do all of this, or most of this stuff I've shown you, you have to have the loops, and you have to make the loops on a wire. And you can wrap them or not. And I thought, you know, I've shown you 2 or 3 different tools to use, but I've not shown them to you in the same video to where you can compare them to each other and compare what they do. Okay, so I had this brilliant idea to get this long wire and wire all this together, and I only have to do 2 loops, 1 at each end, and that'd be a long part of the necklace coming up the side of it. Well, it's really stiff. And I thought, geez, with the long bead going across the bottom and hook this to the bead and bringing it up, if you brought it up that far on your chest, it may not be that bad being that stiff. But in order to get it really flexible, let's do something like this. I'll see the difference between those two, how stiff this one is and how flexible this one is. Now I'm picking up some of the purple, and the purple are glass beads. All of these beads have like a satin finish to them, and they're really cool, even the plastic ones. And I'm not convinced they're all plastic, but I think they are. I bought them years and years ago. But I'm picking up the purple in my big bead, and I'm picking up the darker green. And I'm only putting a couple of beads on it at a time. I am joining them with a really small jump ring, which you don't have to before you close up a bead. If you have all of these components together, all you have to do is put one on top of each other before you wire wrap it. And all of these are wire wrapped around the hook. So the other things that I've learned, because I'm not a wire wrapper and I'm not a beater, so I have to go with what I like and what I think looks good and what I'm satisfied with. And you'll know, because if you do something you think you like and you put it together and it doesn't give you that aha feeling, then it's not right. You'll know it. So let me show you together the 3 looping tools that I have, and you may have. Now this is a 20 gauge wire, and it's stiffer. This is a 24 gauge wire, and it's thinner. This is just a little bit thicker than the florist wire that you get at the Dollar Tree to do floral arrangement with. The green wire, that's 26 millimeters, or 26 gauge. And this is 24, so this is just a little bit stronger, but it's flexible. This one, being the 20 gauge, is not quite as flexible, so it's going to hold sturdy things together. And it's going to be more bulky on the wrap going around, because your wire's thicker, so your wraps going around your main wire are going to show up a little bit more. And that's what I wanted with this one. I wanted to have it bulky looking, or chunky looking, however you want to say it, and not be the pretty soft petite looking thing. So that's another thing you need to determine when you're doing things, is how do you want the finished look to be. And we'll get into some more stuff next week on working with one cane scrap in and what all I got out of it and putting it together. And it's more, all of the beads are pearl that I've got chosen, and so they're pearly type beads, and it's more of a softer look than what this is. Okay, let's start with what we all have, our round nose pliers. And you take your wire, this is the thin wire, and you bend it over. And you take your round nose pliers. Now I can put it right here on the end and make a tiny little hoop. I can go to the middle and make it a larger hoop, or I can come up here to the end and make a much larger loop. So let's go in the middle, and I'm going to take my end, and with this being such a thin wire, I can turn it with my fingers. And you want to move your pliers to where when you make your loop, it crosses over coming down to your right side. And you want to hold it as close to the pliers as you can to get that, still that round shape. Okay, then we take it into another set of pliers and hold on to it. Now this is going to be a wrap loop because they're the most secure. And this wire has to be straight. And I am going to take another pair of pliers because my hands aren't that strong. And we'll take my tail and I'm going to push it up towards my pliers. Let me see. I pushed it up so the wire would sit right underneath the pliers. And hold tight. Hold tight to my wire coming down and still remain a circle on top, that round hoop. And I'm just taking my wire and pulling it around the wire hanging down. And I find it a little bit harder to do it this way with the round nose pliers. And push it down, and there's a little tiny bit sticking off there, so I'm just going to take my flush cutters and cut that off. So now I have a little wrap loop. Okay, that's one tool you can use, and the thinner the wire, the harder it is to do. I'll be honest with you. You can get the technique down, and it takes practice and practice and practice, let me tell you. A lot of practice. Okay. Take your wire, bend it over, take your needle nose pliers, put the end of that wire right inside to where when you run your finger over across it, you don't feel that wire, and bring it back towards you. Reinsert the wire and bring them back again until they meet. I overextended that one a little bit. And then straighten it up, and there's you an eye hook. So this end's wrapped around. This end is just made the hook. There's no wire wrapping on that one. Okay, let me straighten this back out. Use this same wire to show you the one-step looper tool. Now if I'm going to do a lot of this chaining, because I like the loops in the chain, because you can add different spacer beads and stuff. You can do it with your beading wire as well, but I mostly like the chunkiness. Okay, this is the one-step looping tool. This is a 1.5 millimeter loop. They now have 3 different sizes of these now. And there's a mechanism right here with a little peg, and that's what makes your loop. There's a hole over here, so the end of the wire, if it's long enough, can come out that hole. It doesn't have to be long enough to do that if you're just doing an end like we did with the round nose pliers. Let me show you this one first. Well, let me show you the round nose so I can use the same wire. Okay, this is just going to be a loop at the end like you're making a eye pin. And you put your wire in there and let it stick out right here at the end of this curved part of this mechanism. Okay, you've got your hoop, your wire going through there underneath your pin, and it's just hanging out over there on the side. And you give it a flick, and sometimes it cuts and sometimes it doesn't. Just take your hoop down because the wire's thin. I would recommend at least a 22 or 20 gauge wire when doing anything like this. This thinner wire is just hard to handle sometimes. Okay, so now we have the same sort of loop on the end. We have the one made with the one-step looper and the one I made with the round nose pliers. Now to get, see, I can just take this out with my fingers. That's how thin this wire is. I can just straighten it out with my fingers. Okay, now with your one-step looper, if you want to put a loop right up next to your last bead, which you will, open it up, make sure your bead is right there on the side of your tool. Feed the wire through the hole in the back. See it coming out right there? Right here. So a little piece hanging out. It's going to cut everything off. Here's what it cut off. Made my loop. I will take my round nose pliers. And we'll tighten it up. So we have a loop on each end. One using the round nose pliers and one using the one-step looper. Okay, let me show you the same thing with a heavier wire. We've done the round nose with the heavier ones before, but let me show you the difference in the gauge and wire and using this tool. This is 20 gauge. I've got it going through underneath my peg, and over and out the end hole. Right here. And I click it and I pull it over. Here's the wire it cut off, and here is the closed loop it made. Let me zoom in on that a little bit so you can see how nice this is. And it has to do with the gauge of the wire. The thinner wire just doesn't work quite as well doing things like this. Okay. The next tool I had and didn't use for a long time and don't know why is a 6-step or 6-size, I don't remember what it's called, looping tool. And it's a pair of pliers that has different size tubes built together and put on it. And there's 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and they're all 6 different sizes. We have a 2mm, a 3mm, a 4mm, a 5mm, a 7mm, and a 9mm. And whatever size you want is what you wrap your wire around what you want. So let's do, we're going to bend our wire over. Let's do the 3, or actually, let's do the 4. You put your tool on top. You bring your wire over and you rotate your pliers, and there's your loop. Okay, again, I cross my wire under the loop going to my right. We'll take another pair of pliers and hold the loop. This is going to be a wire wrap one. This is what I've done on the necklace I'm working on. I'm going to take my wire tail, push it upwards so it's going up instead of just coming straight out. Because if you push it upwards and get it right up to that plier bottom, then it's going to set right at the bottom of your loop. And that's where you want it. I'm going to press the last roll down. I still have a little nub right here I need to cut off. And straighten it up. And there's this one done with this 6-size looping tool. Now those are the 3 most common. There's all different ones like this that have different sizes and different things on them. They look totally different. This is the one I got years ago, and I was actually afraid of it because I didn't understand it and I didn't use it back then. But I've started using it more now, and I really like it. Okay, the only thing, I'm not going to show you these because I just showed you how I did them. So I'm not going to do any more. But I think, depending on, I really don't want to add another consecutive set of beads because it would be too long. And I don't want to stop. This will be hooked to the necklace and this will be up on your shoulder. So I don't want to add any more design in this area at all. But I am going to have to add something to the top end to go around the neck. And I think it's going to be, I don't have an open-ended wire anywhere, do I? Let me cut this off real quick. I think it's going to be a just a chain of the different shaped beads, and then I may do a purple one because I can do it on a longer wire a little bit, and do a purple with smaller purple beads, and do basically the same thing and then hook them together. Let's see if I can get this on here to show you. And sort of repeat the bottom pattern. Because this is going around the back of the neck, and you don't want it bulky back there, or don't want anything that's going to pull. So I think making them like this, and maybe start at the top of the shoulder and go back. So I don't know. Suggestions? Give them to me. We'll try it. And I'll take the suggestions into consideration before I do the long tube bead. But I hope this helped. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And please leave me some suggestions on how to finish this. You know, we all have different ideas, and we all have different beads and stuff. And it's such a loving community of polymer clay and sharing ideas and things. And that's one of the things I really, really like about it. So I'll post a picture of this one when it's finished. And there'll be another video quite soon. Blessings.